My boss got the call at 6:47 in the morning. By 8:15, he was standing in the intensive care unit waiting room, clutching a terrible cup of coffee, asking the nurses if I was going to live. My mother got the call at 6:50. By noon, her chair next to my hospital bed remained completely empty. I lay there, trapped under a heavy halo brace, my spine fused together with titanium rods. Every breath I took felt like inhaling crushed glass. The steady, rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound keeping me tethered to reality. My coworker walked into the room, bypassing the empty visitor chairs. She did not bring flowers or balloons. She brought the brutal truth. She handed me her phone. The screen glowed brightly against the sterile white hospital walls. It was an Instagram story. My mother and father were laughing, raising crystal glasses of champagne in a VIP club in Atlanta. They were celebrating my brother Jason's new app launch. The exact same app launch I paid for with my drained life savings. They left me paralyzed in a hospital bed to go drink champagne on my dime. I stared at the bright screen. The numbness in my legs crawled up into my chest, freezing my heart. The last shred of hope I held on to regarding my family disintegrated right there in that sterile room. The hospital monitor beeped a steady, mocking rhythm. I was 29 years old, a high school English teacher making $45,000 a year, and I had absolutely nothing to my name. Every penny I had ever earned, every extra tutoring gig, every grueling summer school shift went straight into the black hole of my family's expectations. I spent my 20s grading essays late into the night at a tiny kitchen table, eating cheap instant noodles, wearing thrifted coats in the dead of winter. Jason spent his 20s renting exotic cars, booking luxury hotel suites, chasing one failed lifestyle brand after another. He was 26, the golden child, the visionary. I was the safety net, the pack mule. Over the past 6 years, my parents systematically bullied, guilted, and manipulated me into surrendering a quiet inheritance from my grandfather, along with every cent of my personal savings. The grand total was $210,000. $210,000 of my blood, sweat, and youth, handed over to keep Jason's delusions afloat. Megan, my mother, always used the exact same manipulation tactic. She would call me, her voice dripping with that weaponized disappointment. She would say I was the strong one, the practical one, the one who did not need coddling. Jason needed support. Jason was on the verge of greatness. If I refused to fund his next venture, I was actively destroying his future and breaking my family apart. I bought the lie. I bought it because when you are raised as the family scapegoat, you believe your only value is what you can provide. You think buying their love is the exact same thing as earning it. They broke my spirit back then, conditioning me to accept the crumbs of their affection. But lying in that hospital bed, staring at the fluorescent ceiling tiles, something fundamental shifted. The heavy pain medications clouded my brain, but the betrayal cut right through the fog. The titanium in my spine felt stronger than the blind loyalty in my heart. Today, I was the one holding the hammer. The hospital room phone shattered the silence on the third day. The caller ID flashed my mother's cell phone number. I stared at the plastic receiver. My heart hammered against my ribs, sending sharp spikes of absolute agony down my fused spine. I answered the call. It was not my mother. Jason's frantic, breathless voice filled the earpiece. The background noise was a chaotic thumping of heavy club music. He did not ask how the spinal surgery went. He did not ask if I could walk or if I was in pain. His voice was shrill with pure panic. His premium credit card had just declined at the VIP table in Atlanta. He was sitting in front of potential venture capital investors, and the club manager was threatening to throw them out into the street. He needed me to immediately co-sign a $50,000 emergency bridge loan. The sheer audacity stole the air from my lungs. I squeezed my eyes shut against the harsh hospital lighting. I whispered into the receiver. I told him I was in the intensive care unit. I told him I could not feel my legs. The music muffled for a second. A hand covering the receiver. And then Megan's voice came on the line. Cold, sharp, completely devoid of maternal warmth or human empathy. She ordered me to stop being dramatic. She told me to pull up the email on my phone, authorize the charge, and save my brother from embarrassment. The investors were watching. She said I was ruining the most important night of his entire life. Silence stretched between us over the cellular connection. For 29 years, that sharp tone of hers commanded my instant obedience. It commanded my wallet, my time, my sanity. I stared at the white blanket covering my motionless legs. I did not argue. I did not cry. I did not beg for her love or try to explain the severity of a spinal fusion. I experienced a cold, deadening clarity. I pulled the phone away from my ear. I pressed the red button to disconnect the call. I reached over to the hospital wall and yanked the telephone cord straight out of the jack. The ATM was permanently closed. 4 days later, a notification vibrated against the plastic tray table next to my bed. It was an alert from Experian on my personal cell phone. A hard credit inquiry had just hit my file from an elite venture capital firm located in Atlanta. A spike of pure ice shot through my veins. Jason had not just asked for money at the club. When I hung up on them, he escalated the situation to a criminal level. He fraudulently listed me as the primary financial guarantor for his massive Phase 2 funding round. He forged my signature on the underwriting documents. The old version of me would have panicked. The old version of me would have called my mother, crying, begging them to take my name off the paperwork, getting dragged into a vicious screaming match where they gaslit me into compliance. Not this time. I grabbed my phone. I bypassed my family entirely. I called the venture capital firm's main office directly and asked for the underwriting department. A polite man answered the phone. I played the role of the confused, eager guarantor. I told him I saw a credit pull on my file, but I was currently recovering in the intensive care unit and just wanted to review the documents they had on file to ensure everything was correct. He eagerly emailed the PDF document to my phone. One glance at the screen confirmed my worst suspicion. There it was. My forged signature, guaranteeing a massive loan against assets I no longer possessed. I hit reply all on the email. I copied the firm's legal compliance team and their fraud division. I typed 2 sentences. I stated the signature was a blatant forgery. I attached a bright, high-resolution photo of my hospital wristband, clearly showing the date, the time, and the intensive care unit monitors blinking in the background, proving I had been paralyzed in a hospital bed at the exact moment the document was allegedly signed in Atlanta. I hit send. The venture capital firm pulled the funding instantly. 3 months later, the air in Asheville, North Carolina, smelled like pine needles and rain. I had quietly relocated to Aunt Lauren's property. Lauren was my father's estranged sister, a fierce, silent protector who had watched my parents drain me dry for years. She took me in. I was healing, walking with a cane, finally breathing without pain. I thought I was safe. I thought the silence meant victory. I underestimated their desperation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation had frozen Jason's assets due to the venture capital firm reporting the forged documents. He was days away from a federal wire fraud indictment. They were drowning in debt and panic. So they hunted me down. Megan and Jason bypassed the front desk security and stormed into the main office of my new high school right in the middle of second period. They knew exactly what they were doing. They weaponized my profession. A teacher's career relies entirely on maintaining a flawless public image. They bet on my fear of public humiliation. Megan started screaming in the reception area. She told the school secretary I was mentally unstable. She demanded I sign a financial power of attorney, claiming she needed to take control of my life and my finances for my own good. It was a brutal, calculated ambush designed to force my compliance through sheer terror. They expected me to break, to cry, to sign anything just to make them stop screaming. I stepped out of the teacher's lounge and leaned heavily on my wooden cane. I stared at them with absolute cold indifference. Dealing with adult tantrums was my specialty. I did not raise my voice. I did not flinch. Aunt Lauren stepped out of the principal's office right behind me, flanked by her terrifyingly calm attorney. Mr. Vance did not shout. He simply slid a single, thick legal document across the reception counter. It was the paperwork for a $350,000 trust fund. Aunt Lauren had been secretly saving it for me for 18 years, waiting for the day I finally broke free. The kicker, it was an irrevocable spendthrift trust. It was legally untouchable by creditors, completely immune to family claims, and absolutely sealed away from any power of attorney. The color drained from Jason's face instantly. Megan's wild. Panicked eyes darted from the document to the attorney. Her control evaporated into thin air. I gave a subtle nod to the school resource officer standing by the door. The heavy, metallic click of the handcuffs echoing in the school office was the loudest sound in the world. As the officer hauled Jason and Megan toward the exit for trespassing and harassment, Mr. Vance packed his briefcase. He handed my mother his business card. He told her that all communications to me would now go through his office, and suggested she save her screaming for a federal defense attorney. The fallout was swift, surgical, and legally devastating. The arrest at the high school handed me an immediate emergency temporary restraining order on the spot. 2 weeks later, at the formal civil hearing in downtown Charlotte, my parents tried to play the sobbing, heartbroken victims for the judge. They wept. They talked about family bonds. It failed spectacularly. Mr. Vance simply connected his laptop to the courtroom monitor and played the high-definition police body camera footage of Megan's unhinged meltdown and Jason's extortion attempt at the school. The judge cut them off mid-sentence. He signed the permanent restraining order without letting them speak another word. Jason's golden child status shattered. The venture capital firm handed everything over to federal prosecutors. He faced multiple counts of wire fraud and identity theft. Megan and Daniel drained their entire retirement savings, sold their house, and emptied their investment portfolios just to keep their precious son out of federal prison. They lost everything they worshipped. Their reputation in their country club circle vanished overnight. Their friends stopped calling. The church community shunned them when the fraud became public knowledge. I never attended the criminal hearings. I never read the desperate letters they tried to send through Mr. Vance's office. I sat on Aunt Lauren's porch in the Appalachian Mountains, a warm cup of coffee in my hands. The morning mist rolled over the green hills. There was no screaming. There were no demands for my paycheck. There was just the profound, beautiful silence of a life that finally belonged completely to me. People ask me all the time if I feel guilty. They ask if the holidays are hard, or if I miss my parents when my birthday rolls around. Society pushes this relentless narrative that family is everything, that blood is a sacred bond that must be preserved at the cost of your own sanity. The truth, I do not miss them at all. I miss the illusion of who I desperately wanted them to be. I miss the parents I deserved. But I do not miss the people they actually are. The judge sentenced Jason to 6 years in state prison with eligibility for parole after 4 years. The court ordered restitution of $142,000 to various creditors. My parents moved into a tiny, cramped apartment, their wealth entirely incinerated by legal fees. 6 months after the sentencing, a letter managed to slip past my lawyer. It was from my mother. It was 4 pages of handwritten guilt. She wrote about how much she sacrificed to raise me. She wrote that Jason was suffering in a tiny cell because of my selfishness. She wrote that I was still her daughter and that God demands forgiveness for family. The old me would have agonizingly drafted a 10-page response, trying to explain my pain, trying to make her understand the depth of her betrayal. The new me, I read the letter standing by the kitchen trash can. Tears did not stream down my face. My heart did not break. I felt nothing but a hollow, echoing pity. I dropped the pages into the garbage, tied the plastic bag, and took it out to the curb. I went back inside and cooked dinner with Aunt Lauren and 2 of my closest friends from the high school. We laughed until our ribs ached. That is the ultimate power move. Indifference. When you are raised in a toxic family system, specifically the golden child and scapegoat dynamic, you have to understand the psychology of your abusers. Narcissistic family structures do not operate on unconditional love. They operate on utility. My parents did not favor Jason because he was a better person. They favored him because he was an extension of their own fragile egos. He was the flashy, ambitious phantom they wanted to project to the world. But phantoms do not pay the mortgage. Phantoms do not fund app launches. They needed a battery to power their delusion. I was the battery. They did not love my silence. They required it. They required my suffering so Jason could shine. If you are listening to this and you feel the crushing weight of being the family fixer, the financial safety net, the one who is expected to set yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm, I need you to listen to 3 fundamental rules. These are the rules that cost me a broken spine and $210,000 to learn. Rule number 1, blood is a biological accident. Loyalty is a daily choice. Sharing DNA with someone does not give them a VIP pass to destroy your life. You owe absolutely nothing to people who treat your existence as a transaction. True family is chosen. True family is Aunt Lauren handing over a trust fund to buy my freedom. True family is the friends who sat by my hospital bed when my own mother could not be bothered to leave a VIP club. Rule number 2, silence is the ultimate weapon against chaos. Manipulators feed on your reactions. When you scream back, when you argue, when you try to explain your side, you are giving them exactly what they want. You are giving them your energy. You are showing them they still have the power to affect your emotional state. Absolute. Cold withdrawal is the only thing a narcissist truly fears. You do not need to make them understand your boundaries. You just enforce them. The permanent restraining order was not an act of revenge. It was an act of profound self-love. Rule number 3, you cannot heal in the exact same environment that broke you. I could not find my peace in the city where I bled out financially. I had to physically remove myself. I had to let my old identity as the compliant daughter burn to the ground. Aunt Lauren's trust fund was not just money. It was the physical distance required to see the abuse clearly. It was the moat around my new castle. I am Sarah. I am free. I walk without a cane now. and my bank account belongs to me. If you are the person holding your toxic family together while they tear you apart, let this story be your sign. Drop the rope. Let them fall. Have you ever had to cut off a toxic family member to save your own life? Tell me your story in the comments below. Share this with someone who needs the courage to walk away. Let us remind each other every single day that no is a complete sentence. Publish ready script. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there yelling, why did she give them $210,000? Why did she wait until she was lying paralyzed in an intensive care unit to finally cut them off? It is so easy to judge from the outside, but let us break down what was actually happening behind closed doors. Sarah was not stupid, and she was not weak. She was trapped in a psychological cycle called intermittent reinforcement. I like to call it the slot machine effect. Toxic families do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would walk away immediately. Instead, they give you tiny crumbs of hope, a rare compliment, a fleeting moment of inclusion, or a fake apology. You keep pulling the lever, emptying your pockets, hoping that this time you will finally hit the jackpot of their unconditional love. They condition you to believe that if you just fix one more emergency or fund one more app launch, you will finally earn your spot in the family. But once the fog lifted, look at how brilliantly Sarah executed her escape. Let us break down her street-smart financial self-defense. First, we have the audit strategy. When Sarah got that credit alert, she did not call her mother to cry or argue. Scammers and manipulators thrive in the emotional chaos of an argument. Instead, she bypassed the drama completely and went straight to the source. She called the venture capital firm and asked for the paperwork. She audited the lie. When you remove the emotion and demand the receipts, the manipulator's power completely vanishes. Second, she mastered building the case. Sarah did not just claim the signature was fake. She provided undeniable proof. She sent the time-stamped hospital wristband photo directly to the fraud department. Ladder. She did not try to outscream her parents in family court. She sat back in silence and let the judge watch the police body camera footage. Documentation always beats drama. If it is not in writing or on video, it does not exist. Finally, let us talk about the fortress. Notice how Aunt Lauren set up that $350,000 fund. It was an irrevocable spendthrift trust. That is not just a bank account, that is a financial vault. It meant that even if her parents had successfully ambushed her at the school and bullied her into signing a power of attorney, they legally could not touch a single dime. She was bulletproof. Here is the final verdict. You cannot negotiate with people who view your boundaries as a personal attack. You cannot buy respect from people who only value your wallet. Your peace of mind is the most expensive asset you will ever own. And sometimes you have to bankrupt a toxic relationship to protect it. If this story resonated with you, or if you have survived your own version of the slot machine family, I want to hear from you. Drop your survival strategies in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button for more Real Talk breakdowns. And remember, protect your peace and protect your pockets.